Well-known director James Cameron may have accepted an invitation to visit Alberta's oil sands. The director of Avatar and Titanic has been in the news for calling the tar sands a black eye on Canada. The Ontario-born Cameron was promoting the DVD release of Avatar on the weekend when he was asked by an Aboriginal activist if he would visit the oil sands. Cameron was recorded to have said yes, although he did not give a date. Last week, the Premier of Alberta also urged Cameron to visit, hoping he would change his negative opinion if he saw the oil sands firsthand. Clayton Thomas-Mueller has been a long-time opponent of the oil sands development. He met Mr. Cameron over the weekend and is the person who invited the Avatar director to visit them firsthand. We now have Mr. Thomas-Mueller in our Ottawa studio. Welcome to our show.
Hey, it's nice to be here.
So, Mr. Thomas-Mueller, how did you get a chance to meet Mr. Cameron?
Well, the Indigenous Environmental Network, along with some of our allies, Cultural Survival, Amazon Watch, and the Seven Generation Foundation, have been in a dialogue with Mr. Cameron and his production company for some time on how he could work with Indigenous-led organizations here in North America and utilize Avatar's, awareness that it's been creating on really what is the zeitgeist of our generation in terms of the battle between corporate interests and Indigenous ways of life. And so this meeting was part of a series of meetings that we've been having to focus specifically on Canada's tar sands and to talk about how Mr. Cameron could potentially contribute to that struggle.
What did you think of him when you met him? How knowledgeable is he about Alberta's oil sands?
Well, he had a pretty good base knowledge of the tar sands. We were there in attendance with Francois Paulette, longtime activist and former chief, founder of Treaty 8. And of course, former chief of Mikisew Cree First Nation, George Poitois, who was the one who actually extended the invitation to Mr. Cameron to come and travel up to Fort Chipewyan and into the tar sands region to do a fact-finding mission. And he's a really humble, down-to-earth guy, very approachable, and very concerned about environmental issues.
Now, of course, his movie Avatar does have a pro-environment message. Do you think that he really is genuine about it, or it's maybe just another way to sell DVDs of the movie which just came out on DVD just last week?
I don't question his commitment whatsoever. The Indigenous Environmental Network, as mentioned, we've already met with Mr. Cameron in his home in Los Angeles with his wife. He's already traveled to Brazil with Amazon Watch to the site of the proposed Montebello Dam, which is a massive hydroelectric project that's going to displace thousands of local Indigenous peoples. He's been there twice, and next on this series of kind of fact-finding missions, of course, is the tar sands. And he has expressed his commitment to traveling up there, accepted the invitation from George Poitras. The logistics and details and schedule attached to that have yet to be worked out. But he came across very genuine and authentic.
I suppose, what was the main message, Mr. Thomas-Mueller, that you gave him when you got to meet him firsthand?
Well, the main message was, obviously expressing, gratitude for the highlight that he's bringing, to the Indigenous-led campaign against Canada's tar sands. Sorry, I'm having some earpiece difficulties. The main message we brought, however, was that, he can do more, and that, by visiting the tar sands, by being hosted by Canada's First Nations in the region, like Mikisew Cree First Nation, Athabasca Chipewyan First Nation, and other downstream communities being affected by the largest development on the planet that we have, as of late, been referring to as Avatar sands, he can really bring a lot of focus and attention to an issue that continues to be a scandal and needs to be in the media.
Now, Mr. Cameron, of course, has been invited to see the oil sands firsthand by Alberta's Premier Ed Stelmach. What makes you think he might jump at Mr. Poitras' invitation?
Well, I think that, because he told Mr. Poitras to his face that he would. And secondly, you know, I think that it's been an interesting back and forth between Mr. Stelmach and you know, in reference to the comment that Mr. Cameron made the other day about tar sands being a black eye on the image of Canada. And you know, Mr. Cameron's response to all of that was that, you know, before he goes in depth on an issue, that he always likes to travel there to get the facts for himself. And it sounds like he's going to be working with the Indigenous Environmental Network and, of course, locally affected First Nations to do so.
Okay, and lastly, have you seen Avatar?
I've seen Avatar about 5 times. You know, as a commentator on environmental justice issues, you know, I've been asked to speak on the movie quite a few times in different media outlets, and you know, and also I'm a big action fan.
That's great, Mr. Thomas-Mueller. Once again, thank you for doing this, and thank you for putting up with that earpiece.
Thank you. Technology.
Okay, thanks. Back, we'll have